How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you letting me do this with you. I only have a few questions here. This is my buddy Cole Henry. He's running the show with me.
How you doing,
Hey,
Mr.
Cole.
Bischoff?
How are you, buddy?
First
I'm pretty
question I
good.
have, just what was your thoughts in general on the Eugene angle and being Uncle Eric?
Oh, I didn't have a lot of thoughts about it. I love working with Nick Dinsmore. Very, very talented guy, easy person to work with, and a great performer. So I really enjoyed him as a person. I didn't really think the storyline was that powerful. I don't think it was very successful. I think it was a little bit too hard to believe and a little bit too contrived. I mean, everything is contrived to one degree or another.
Yes, sir.
There's a line, and when you cross over it, it becomes kind of entertaining but not compelling, and there's a big difference.
Right on. Cole, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I've heard you mention a few times that you kickboxed on ESPN sometime in the 80s.
Well, yeah.
First question is, what was your martial art of choice? Was it kickboxing or did you do karate? Or
Well, I got my black belt in system. That's JHOONRHEE. Eugene brought a very, I'll call it a functional style of Taekwondo or Korean karate. Korean karate, if most people are aware of it, is like 75% kicking techniques, 25% punching techniques. Whereas the Japanese styles of karate tend to be more kicking than punching. What Eugene did is really modernize and take advantage of all the strengths of the Korean style of kicking applications, but then really through a real progressive combination of, traditional martial arts, physiology, and boxing, incorporated a much, much more effective and practical use of the hands in his version of Taekwondo than what would normally be seen in a traditional Taekwondo environment.
So it was a more well-rounded style in a way.
It was more well-rounded, and it was really creative design taught to be a very effective self-defense style of martial arts. Back in the 70s, the 60s and the 70s, when karate schools really became very popular here, they were all very, very traditional. And traditional karate is great, don't get me wrong, but it's not necessarily, the majority of it isn't necessarily practical for most there. So, fast forward to the late 70s, early 80s, and Eugene was one of the more progressive martial artists in the world and really created a much more functional style of martial art.
And one more part to that question. Did you have a professional record as a kickboxer?
No, I only had a few fights, and I think I might have won a couple, tied one. I don't think I lost, but I only had a handful of fights, and I realized that it was just not a very practical long-term career opportunity.
Yeah, it's certainly cool to know that you did that, though. I'm really into martial arts, so it's cool that you did that.
My next question, Eric, is what are the current projects and what is next for Eric Bischoff? Do you have any goals left before retiring? I saw you did a recent TED Talks episode.
Yeah, the TED Talk episode, I had never done a TED Talk, so it was a very exciting challenge for me, and I enjoyed doing it. But, that was just a one-off. Really, I've got my own television entertainment production company. I got a couple movie projects in one phase of development or another. I'm still involved in the television business, although really more on the movie side than the TV side lately. I'm building a digital platform with a group out of Chicago that's going to allow us to kind of curate a lot of the really best podcasts in the world on a page, and then also incorporate video streaming and things like that, much like on Twitch or Patreon. So we're developing that technology as we speak, and then having fun with the podcast. And quite honestly, I'm doing a lot more live appearances and tours around the world. So kind of a combination of a lot of things.
Okay, Cole, go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of that podcast, I have a couple of questions about it. On a recent episode, you mentioned that early on in your career with the AWA, you developed some sort of a ninja board game. And I tried looking it up to see exactly what it was called, and I couldn't find anything. So I was just wondering if you remembered the exact name of the game.
Yeah, it was called Ninja Star Wars.
Oh, that was the actual name? Okay, got you.
Yeah, that was the actual name. It was Ninja
I want to try to see if I can find a copy of it somewhere. Maybe on eBay or something.
Good luck.
Yeah.
All right, Eric, I have one more question for you. I'm not sure if Cole has one more too, but what are your thoughts on many things from the 90s, from both WCW and WWE, being relevant today, and people trying to rehash like the invasion angle like they did with the Voodoo Kin Mafia and TNA, and DX still being relevant, the NWO, you know, Hulk, Nash, and Hall, they're doing a reunion tour. What are your thoughts on the 90s being still relevant today?
Well, you know, for me, because the peak of my career and my involvement in the industry was obviously in the 90s, so naturally I'm going to look very favorably on that era, subjectively. But I think what's interesting about wrestling fans is that they, you know, they're generational. You know, I go to a personal appearance and I'll have somebody come up to me that's, you know, older than I am, 70 years old, saying, oh man, I remember, you know, watching you with my kids. And those same kids who are now 30, 35 years old will come up to me and go, oh man, I used to watch you with my dad. And by the way, those 30-year-olds have 10-year-olds that go, oh wow, I just watched you on the WWE Network. So it's kind of fascinating how I think wrestling fans, more than any other genre of fans, at least that I'm aware of, that I have first-hand knowledge of, wrestling fans are generational, they're very loyal. It's a family viewing experience in many, many respects, or at least a community viewing experience where guys, you know, I hear, you know, people come up to them and say, oh man, when I was in college, me and my buddies would have nitro parties every Monday night. You know, that's what I mean by communal experience. So I think wrestling is different than a lot of television, whereas people do it with families and within their friends and groups and things like that. And it just amazes me how so many people still want to talk about, you know, that Monday Night War era.
Right.
That's what my podcast is all about. You know, it's all about those 83 weeks and that head-to-head Monday Night War era, and how it, you know, developed and how it still exists, to your point, in many things that we see today.
I think a staple, I mean, there's many reasons why you should be in the Hall of Fame, but if you did create the Elimination Chamber concept, that wasn't just a TV thing, and if that's true, that can be used forever.
Well, I hate to burst your bubble. I had nothing to do with creating that thing.
I wasn't sure.
No, that was all Triple H.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if Cole has one more question for you, but I want to say that I was lucky to see you in Houston, Texas at Bad Blood. You were during the Redneck Triathlon. I'm sure that was fun being involved in the pie eating contest with Mae Young, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, that was a blast. Highlight of my career, for sure.
Right on. Cole, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have two real quick questions. First of all, I saw an article from 2011 that said that you owned a brewing company. Is that still active?
I know, and I didn't own a brewing company. What I was doing is I had one single beer brand. I didn't have a brewery that brewed a lot of different brand varieties. I had one beer brand that I was having to produce for me and distributing it around pretty much the Rocky Mountain West, where there's a strong cowboy culture and kind of tourism during the summer. It was called Buffalo Bill Cody Beer. I got the trademark for Buffalo Bill Cody, the real character.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
There's a small town in Wyoming where I live named after him. So we created Buffalo Bill Cody Beer simply because we knew we could sell it to all the tourists coming through every summer.
Yeah, definitely fits the area. So you more so just worked with a brewery than actually owning it.
Yeah, it's called contract brewing. You know, that if you want to have your own craft beer or, you know, your own label of beer, what you could do is go to, you know, a really big craft brewer and say, look, I'll pay you to brew my beer according to my specifications, and you handle the bottling and the labeling and the shipping, and here's how much I'll pay you. So you can literally have your own craft beer without having to even know how to brew it.
So it's a little bit like Stone Cold's, the Broken Skull IPA that he has?
Yeah, no, it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing.
All right, well, last question. I'm a big fan of your podcast, and I'm just curious to know, is Conrad the same off the air that he is on the air?
He's a little easier for me to get along with off the air.
I would imagine so.
No, I mean, look, when we're doing a show, Conrad has to come at me from the perspective of the fan.
Yeah.
And sometimes fans don't buy everything that you say, and they'll challenge you. I mean, the fans may not do it because they may not feel comfortable doing it when they meet me and we're in a conversation. But there's a lot of fans out there because over the years, you know, the only thing they do is what they read in Dave Meltzer's dirt sheet. And they come to believe that stuff. Like, you know, once you read it, it's like gospel. It's kind of like
their sword.
There's a lot of people out there for 20 years who've been hearing, you know, one side of a most often fabricated story. And now, you know, fans are interested in that time period and what was really going on behind the scenes. That's why our show is so popular. And Conrad's job is to really dig in and challenge me if he thinks I deserve to be challenged.
Yeah, he's fantastic to listen to. You're hilarious.
He's good at it, you know, and now, when we first started doing the show, like the first 6 or 8 episodes, we were just, you know, yelling at each other and swearing at each other, and yeah, it got pretty intense right away. And then it settled down quite a bit, and we kind of got into more of a granular detail of, you know, behind the scenes, and not relying so much on what was written in the Observer, you know, as a talking point.
And for a while, y'all made me nervous for a while that the show wasn't going to continue. It was pretty heated there at the beginning.
Well, but people like that. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. It's great. It's great. Yes, sir.
They love to hear that.
Mr. Bischoff, I remembered one more thing. Did you actually go to North Korea for the event they had in the 90s?
Yes, I did. Not only did I go, I was instrumental in putting that trip together. But yeah.
What was it like just being in North Korea, being that not anybody can just hop on a plane and go there now?
It was one of the most surreal experiences I've ever had.
Really?
It was, yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know if either of you have been out of the country, but, you know, the first time I set foot out of the country, I was in high school. And now I spoke German. That's why I went over there, because I was a student. I was a German student in high school, and I was on a student exchange program. So I went over to Germany, you know, knowing a decent amount of the language. I wasn't fluent by any stretch, but I excelled at it, and I had 3 years of it in high school. So
that helped.
I was okay. So when I went to Germany, you know, when I was in high school, you know, the architecture's different, the food's different, you know, the way cities are laid out are different. But for the most part, I could make my way around very easily. So I didn't really feel like I was in another world, so to speak. It was just cool, right?
Right.
When you go to North Korea, nothing is like anything you've ever experienced before in your life. I mean, visually, just the geography is. I thought we landed on the moon. I mean, it's just a red, dry, desertish environment. And you can't understand the language, you can't read the street signs, and on top of that, you're surrounded by an entire country of people that actually hate you.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit like landing on another planet, to be honest. It was very, very surreal.
Were you able to venture out?
Yeah, as I talked about
it.
Well, we had security with us almost all the time, but I actually, not really, you know, being mindful of the seriousness of the situation because I was young and stupid. But I got up one morning about 5:30 in the morning, got dressed, and went out for a 6-mile hike by myself. And when I came back, not only did I experience some even more mind-blowing stuff, because the people of Pyongyang, North Korea, were all walking to work about the time I'm out there running around, and they'd never laid eyes on an American. For three generations, Koreans have been taught early in school that Americans will, rape their women and eat their children and murder the village. That's the way they look at us, like monsters, and they've been brainwashed to believing that. So when I went out running around by myself, I saw a lot of scared North Koreans. But when I got back to my hotel, my security person, which is really like the American version of CIA agent, the security person just read me the riot act. I mean, it was scary, to be honest with you.
Well, lucky you didn't end up on CNN.
Or worse.
Yeah.
How was the government reception, and if it was hard to get the license to do all that?
No, we were actually a guest of the North Korean government.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I got you. Well, Mr. Bischoff, that is all I have for you today. I really want to thank you for being a part of this. For everybody listening, this is The Ring, the Cage, and the Stage, and we were lucky to have none other than Eric Bischoff today, and we just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bischoff.
All right, guys. Thank you both very much. I'm glad I could join you, and good luck to you. Happy holidays.
Sir, you too.
Have a great day.